the man's skin quickly disappeared. In less than a minute, his bright red muscles were completely exposed. Accompanied by a shrill scream, the man's muscle tissue began to dissolve rapidly. In an instant, his entire body was reduced to bones. Then, under everyone's horrified gaze, his skeleton also started to fade away, and finally became completely transparent. However, the scientists were overjoyed at the sight, because the experiment had finally succeeded. The world's first Invisible Man was thus born. But fearing that the Invisible Man might lose control, they decided to make a layer of artificial skin for him. They first poured silicone over his face, ensuring that every corner was evenly covered, then used a fan to make it set quickly, and finally cut small holes for breathability. A lifelike human mask was thus completed. However, after being confined in the lab for a long time, the Invisible Man began to grow increasingly irritable. The resentment that had built up inside him made him start to think about revenge. Coincidentally, a female colleague was on duty that night. Seeing the invisible figure still on the thermal monitor, she relaxed her guard and prepared to sleep, not realizing that he had already slipped out of the lab. He silently crept into the office area, and found his colleague sleeping soundly. In a tempting posture, the man tried to assault her, but she suddenly woke from her dream, and discovered that her buttons had been undone. She immediately realized that the Invisible Man was nearby, so she grabbed some paint and a handgun. She poured the paint all over the floor. Just as she began to relax, the man struck her across the face. Enraged, the woman splashed the paint onto his body, revealing his outline, but she was no match for his strength. He forced her to the ground, and tightly grabbed the gun. In the end, despite her desperate pleas for mercy, the man still chose to end her life.